Developing right now on Morning News Now, blocked a controversial Texas immigration law put on hold by an appeals court just hours after the Supreme Court allowed it to take effect. We have team coverage on the legal back and forth that's sparking a debate far beyond the southern border. Also this morning, the stage is set for a Senate showdown in battleground Ohio after voters elect Trump-backed Bernie Moreno to challenge three-term Democrat Sherrod Brown in November. Now, President Biden and former President Trump are looking ahead to the general election.
He's the worst president we've ever had, and I'm looking forward to November 5th.
Last time, you're the reason why, in large part, I beat Donald Trump. Let's beat him again.
We'll bring you the latest from the campaign trail. And cut to the chase this morning, all eyes on the Federal Reserve ahead of a highly anticipated interest rate announcement. But experts say not to expect any cuts quite yet. We'll break down what's ahead and what it means for your wallet. Plus, oh, happy day. That's right. We're celebrating International Happiness Day this morning with best-selling author and happiness expert Arthur Brooks. We're going to hear his tips for finding the joy in every day, beginning by sitting next to you.
Oh, that's good. And we're happy you are with us on this Wednesday morning. Wednesday. All right. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I forgot already. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. This morning, we're going to get started with the legal battle over Texas's controversial immigration law. So oral arguments are set to begin today in federal appeals court on the Biden administration's effort to block the law known as SB 4.
A lot happened yesterday. For a moment, Texas was allowed to enforce the law. Then it wasn't. This contentious law would allow local police to arrest migrants who cross the border illegally from Mexico and impose criminal penalties. It would also empower state judges to order people to be deported to Mexico. Now, earlier this month, the Supreme Court issued a temporary freeze on the law until justices could consider the case. Then yesterday, those justices ruled that Texas could enforce the law until a lower court, the Federal Appeals Court, issued its ruling on the matter. Well, that didn't take long. Just hours later, that appeals court unexpectedly opposed a new block on the law last night and is now expected to hear arguments on the case today. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley has the latest on all this. Also, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here to break it all down because it's a little confusing. So, Julia, let's start with you. A lot of back and forth going on in this case, especially yesterday. What are you watching for today? How soon could this appeals court issue a decision?
A lot of whiplash right now, but what it's really coming down to is that we may actually have a court that weighs in on the merits of whether or not SB 4 should stand, rather than having debates about whether or not it should be on hold pending those oral arguments. In fact, it was at first, we heard earlier this week, the Supreme Court said, let's issue a stay indefinitely. We thought that might stick for months. And then obviously they were really just buying themselves enough time to say, you know what, actually it can go into effect pending what the Fifth Circuit does. We thought that might last a while. Now the Fifth Circuit is saying it should go on hold and scheduling those oral arguments so that hopefully the Biden administration, the advocates, and Texas will be able to come bring their cases here about why this law should or should not stand. But yes, it's a lot of whiplash overnight, waking up to this news, trying to figure out whether or not this law can go into effect. And why do we care so much? Because it's a radical change, a radical departure from the way the U.S. has carried out immigration law for the last 150 years, because it has fallen to the federal government, not the state government, to be able to arrest people who they think came into the country illegally. And really, states haven't been trained in that law, much less, not their police and much less their judges.
Danny, let's hear more about the Supreme Court's decision. What are the implications there of that? And then also tell us, as we move ahead and look to actually this appellate court, what this means in terms of the Biden administration's argument, as well as from what we're hearing from Texas.
The Supreme Court's decision was really a non-decision. It essentially sent it back to the Circuit Court of Appeals, and that's who has it right now. But what was really interesting about the Supreme Court was its dissenting opinions, where the three liberal justices made very clear that not only would they have taken this case up, but they signaled exactly what direction they would go. So you could say that the conservative justices didn't give us any signal by simply sending the case back to the Fifth Circuit. But the three liberal justices, who are a minority and they're just dissenting, and a dissenting opinion is basically has no force. It's basically just lodging your objection. They told us that pretty clearly that they would go against this Texas law. So what that means effectively now is that Texas can enforce the law, which is going to be problematic because it is inconsistent with federal immigration law.
So, Julia, if this law does go into effect after everything we hear in the courts, does Texas even have the resources and capacity to handle the arrests? And on top of that, Mexican officials said yesterday they won't accept deportation. So where would Texas even send those who are deported?
Yeah, that's the big question. I talked to Texas Department of Public Safety yesterday, just after the Supreme Court decision, and they said they still needed to gather together with the key stakeholders and especially decide when they could start rolling that out. And Texas DPS is one part of that. You also have to think of the many local police across the state of Texas, including in small rural areas, who might not have the capacity to enforce this law. As of yesterday, when they thought this could go into effect, they didn't have a concrete date. It was not immediate, but they said it could be as soon as tomorrow, meaning today, before we heard from the Fifth Circuit. So a lot in flux in Texas, but Mexico has staunchly come out against us. A foreign minister said yesterday they think that this is inhumane. They think that this violates human rights. Whereas a top Mexican official came out on Twitter and said, we will not accept deportations. And the Texas law has set up so that anyone who is given a deportation order would go back to Mexico. It's not clear that they would be able to establish the individual authorities they need to send people back to their home countries. For example, if someone came from Venezuela, the U.S. can't even send anyone back to Venezuela right now. How would Texas then establish that authority and get Venezuela to accept those people? Really, a lot of the practicalities have not yet been sorted out.
Danny, what are the broader legal implications here? Should this be able to move forward, even after we get the appeals court decision, given, as both you and Julia smartly pointed out, that this is not standard practice. This is not how it's done across multiple different states that are along the border. What would this mean here as we move forward for immigration policy?
That this case is this mired in appeals is a surprise to me because it seems to me a pretty straightforward constitutional issue. The federal government has exclusive authority to dictate immigration policy, and there's a very good reason for that. It's why we have certain things that are left exclusively to the federal government. Imagine if every state decided coining its own money or printing its own dollar bills. It would be a disaster. Imagine if different countries had to negotiate immigration policy. You just heard Julia's reporting on Mexico's negotiation with America about our immigration policy and how they feel about this Texas law. Imagine if Mexico had to negotiate with every border state individually as if it was a separate sovereign. These are certain things, powers that the states gave up to be part of the United States. It seemed to be a pretty settled issue. The Supreme Court weighed in on this back during the Papers, Please Arizona case. I'm surprised it's gotten this far. But the danger is that if allowed to persist, this Texas law could create a patchwork set of immigration law, which is really anathema to the Constitution itself. So I'd be really surprised if Texas ends up prevailing here.
See what happens. Julia and Danny, thank you both for breaking it down for us this morning. We appreciate it.
Well, this morning, Donald Trump is celebrating a big win in Ohio. NBC News is projecting Bernie Moreno, a former car dealer and Trump-backed candidate, has won Ohio's Republican Senate nomination. Moreno defeated Matt Dolan and Frank LaRose, who were considered more traditional Republican candidates. Moreno will now face incumbent three-term Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown in November.
For more on this, we're joined by NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell and NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Thank you both for being here.
That's right, Mark. Let's get it started with you. Obviously, a big night for the former president and the MAGA movement in Ohio, again, because this was his backed candidate who did take this. What's your reaction to what we saw in the Buckeye State? And also, what do you think about how this is going to stack up against Sherrod Brown?
Yeah, so this was another reminder last night that the Republican Party is Donald Trump's party. What we ended up seeing in the exit poll was that Moreno ended up doing really well among the very conservative as well as non-college voters, the same types of core voters in Donald Trump's base. And this, in a lot of ways, was a replay of what we ended up seeing in 2022 when then Trump-backed J.D. Vance won a three-way Republican primary for the U.S. Senate on the Republican side. And Matt Dolan was also in that contest with another traditional Republican as well. And so, Savannah, I do think that this is just another reminder of how this is Donald Trump's party and how this stacks up for the general election. It's worth noting this is going to be one of the key races that will decide control of the United States Senate. Sherrod Brown is one of the more formidable Democratic incumbents, but he's going to end up needing a lot of ticket splitters in a state that Donald Trump will probably be favored to win in a general election.
So, Mark, I mean, Democrats really aren't complaining about this in this Ohio Senate race. National Democrats actually put millions of dollars behind ads for Moreno, thinking he's the easiest candidate to defeat. At the same time, as you mentioned, Ohio seems to be getting redder and redder each election. So what do you think of this strategy of Democrats pushing Trump-backed candidates in the primary, thinking the Democrats will win in the general? How effective has it been in the past?
Well, so in the past, it worked for someone like Claire McCaskill in 2012, elevating the person who you actually see as maybe the weakest opponent. And so Democrats did pinpoint Moreno and thinking that he was a potentially weaker general election candidate than Dolan or even LaRose. And so we saw that in advertising, and some of the ads were saying that the Trump-backed, very conservative Bernie Moreno and trying to get him out for Republican voters to know that. But again, in 2020, Donald Trump won Ohio by 8 percentage points. And so that's going to be the brutal math for Sherrod Brown, where he is going to end up needing a considerable number of Donald Trump, Sherrod Brown voters in a political world where there are fewer and fewer ticket splitters.
Kelly, let's bring you in here. Keep talking politics. President Biden is out west campaigning. This is part of a 3-day tour through Arizona and Nevada. Specifically here, he's looking to drum up support among Latino voters. It's an area where Republicans have been making inroads. So what is on the president's agenda today, and what is the White House saying about this specific push?
Well, good morning and good to be with you. This is a part of the campaign season where the Biden campaign is working on trying to build the coalitions with affinity groups and constituencies that they believe are essential to their ability to get the math to win. And so that is some of the work that's going on, that outreach to Latinos in Nevada and Arizona. The president will also be in Texas. And doing that is a way to try to connect. And the president also spoke in Phoenix about how much he needs the support of voters in these critical states, and especially within these critical communities, because it could make the critical difference. Here's the president.
You know, last time, you're the reason in large part, I beat Donald Trump.
Yes.
Let's beat him again.
Well, you know, I need you. I need you badly. I need the help. Kamala and I desperately need your help. Because, look, there's only about 6 or 7 states that are going to determine the outcome of this election. They're toss-up states. This is one of them.
And he's speaking there in Phoenix. So Arizona was, of course, part of the essential math for his victory last time, and a state where they believe they have to keep that, maintain it, and build on it where possible. So outreach to those sort of communities is a big part of what we're seeing in the month of March and perhaps somewhat into April before they go on to expand in other ways. So long elections have seasons, and right now it's about building those coalitions.
Kelly O'Donnell and Mark Murray, thank you both very much.
Today, a GOP-led House committee looking into the business dealings of President Biden's son, Hunter, is scheduled to hold a hearing, but without two-star witnesses.
Hunter Biden, who had originally requested a public hearing, is now refusing to appear today at the hearing being held by the Republican-controlled House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. It's entitled Influence Peddling, examining Joe Biden's abuse of public office. Biden's lawyer dismissed the hearing as a carnival sideshow.
NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with the latest. Good morning. So Hunter Biden's one of the main witnesses who won't be there today. The other is Devin Archer, a business associate of the president's son. So why not? Didn't Hunter Biden ask for a public hearing?
He did ask for a public hearing. His lawyers asked for a public hearing from the Republican-led committee for months. This is back when the committee wanted to hear from Hunter Biden behind closed doors. Eventually, you'll remember Hunter Biden, after coming to the Hill, making some unprompted appearances before the press. He did end up testifying for more than 6 hours before the committee behind closed doors at the end of last month. Well, now his lawyers are saying that they are not going to continue taking part in a, quote, political charade. He called it a baseless conspiracy witch hunt and probe by this committee. His lawyers say, however, if the oversight panel, again led by Republican firebrands, decides to bring in family members of former President Trump, then Hunter Biden, his lawyer says, would consider sitting before the committee in a public setting. You talk about Devon Archer as well. That's for a little bit of a different reason. His lawyer actually says that the committee notified his client way too late, and he's far too busy in his schedule in order to accommodate a hearing that is designed essentially to be a charade and sort of dramatize this issue, guys.
So, Julie, Devon Archer, who Joe had mentioned, didn't we see him testify last year in a closed-door meeting and hear him say that he was not aware of any wrongdoing, is ultimately what we think came out of that. Has the committee indicated what else is new here that they hope to learn from interviewing him again?
Well, they hope that Devon Archer, like the other witnesses, like the other business associates of Hunter Biden, would somehow help bolster this claim that they have. They have yet to prove that the president benefited or the president, used and shaped his foreign policy in office and before he got into office as vice president and before that potentially as Senate to help his son in his business dealings. That's a connection they have yet to prove. But Devon Archer and some of the other witnesses that'll be testifying today, they have said behind closed doors, Devon Archer telling the committee last July that, yes, Hunter Biden perhaps threw his father's name around, but that the relationship did not go the other way around.
So, Julie, who will testify at the hearing today?
Yeah, two business associates of Hunter Biden. One of them is actually going to testify from prison, Jason Galanis. He's serving a 14-year term for fraud, so he won't be there physically, but he will be there via video. The other one, Tony Bobulinski, he is another business associate of Hunter Biden who testified before the committee behind closed doors for hours. We've seen that parts of that transcript. Both of the men have also sat before the panel behind closed doors before. They have both again said that, yes, Hunter Biden may have used his father's name in conversations, but that, again, that evidence that the president himself, that Joe Biden himself had shaped foreign policy in any way to benefit his son was just not conclusive there. But we will see an empty chair additionally for Hunter Biden with his name on it. Again, the committee trying to dramatize this event.
Julie, quickly while we have you, let's get a TikTok update. Today, national security officials are holding a closed-door briefing for senators on the Commerce and Intelligence Committee. So this is after the House overwhelmingly passed that bill that would force TikTok's parent company to sell off the app within 6 months or face a ban. And the big question about what's next has been over this bill's future in the Senate. Does the fact that we are seeing this briefing happen mean that we're a step closer to potentially actually seeing a vote in the Senate on this?
Yeah, but there's certainly a lot of pressure, especially from the White House, coming to the Senate, asking them to take up this House-passed bill, which I know you covered extensively, Savannah. And so this morning at around 10:45, the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Senate Commerce Committee, these are really the panels that would have jurisdiction over not only TikTok, but its national security implications on Americans, on the U.S. government as well. They're going to have a chance, the members of these panels, to sit behind closed doors to hear classified briefing from top intelligence officials in the Biden administration to lay out why this bill should go forward now, why they should fast track this process, much like the House did. What are the national security implications of millions of Americans who use TikTok, who use potentially other apps that are controlled by foreign adversaries? That data collection, what that could potentially be used for. These are all the questions that senators on these committees want answers to, especially because they are being asked, again, to push full steam ahead and pass this legislation through the Senate, legislation that the president indicated he would sign swiftly.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much.
Let's turn now to the economy. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce its latest interest rate decision today.
In 2022 and the first half of 2023, the central bank raised rates 11 times to get inflation under control. Since then, no hikes, but also no cuts.
We have Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver here in studio with us to preview what today's decision could mean for our economy. Thought you didn't like us for a minute there. We haven't seen you in studio in a minute.
I've been everywhere.
I know. You were on a world tour.
He was here while you were gone.
Okay. All right. Well, I haven't seen you in a minute. Caleb, what are you expecting to see the Federal Reserve do today?
Yeah, they are not going to change rates today. They have been pretty clear about that. But words matter. And the words that Jerome Powell says in the press conference after the decision at 2 o'clock are what we're going to be paying attention to, but also the charts, particularly the summary of economic projections. That tells us how many times the Fed thinks it needs to cut rates this year. How's GDP? How's the economy doing right now? How's unemployment? And when you look through those things, that checklist, GDP is pretty strong. We thought these higher rates would tip us into a recession. GDP clocking in around 3.3%. Inflation still higher than the Fed wants, 3.2%. And the unemployment rate below 4%. That's full employment. So the economy is in good shape, and they haven't had to cut rates yet.
Powell has said that lowering the rates too quickly could risk us losing this battle against inflation that we've been fighting for the last 2 years. What is the line that the Fed is trying to sort of straddle here?
If they lower rates too quickly, it's going to stimulate a lot of buying, right? We haven't been buying homes or selling homes. We haven't been buying a lot of cars because rates have been so high. Spending is held in, but if rates go lower, people are going to want to spend more. That's just going to cause companies to raise prices again, and then you get back into that inflation gerbil wheel where you just can't get out. So they're going to be very careful about when they cut rates, and that looks like probably June right now, the June 1st meeting in 45 days. 6 hours and 42 minutes.
I was going to ask you for a countdown clock. What does this mean for the average American at home? And is this any indication when we could see those rate cuts? Is people waiting to buy homes or whatever? When do we think that could happen?
We're starting to see a little crack in the home buying market. It started last month. We started to see existing home sales selling again, building permits rising again. We need that mortgage rate to come down to like 5.5%, 6% before you get that activity. But it's the credit card debt that I want to pay attention to, because credit card APRs, they're north of 20%. Families, households are hanging in, especially those that own homes and have stocks. Those prices have gone up. Lower income folks have not done as well, but we are not nearing a great financial crisis type situation right now.
All right.
Caleb Silver, as always, great to see you. Thanks for coming.
New storm systems are set to bring more snow and showers to much of the country. So let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Andrew Lastman's in studio with us. Hey, Andrew, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. We've got some snow to talk about in a couple of spots across the country over the coming days. This morning, we're still seeing some of that lake effect snow happening across the Great Lakes region, downwind of Erie and Ontario. You can see some of that snow still falling across parts of Michigan as well. That's where you'll find some of these winter alerts still up. And again, downwind of the lakes in both New York and Pennsylvania. We'll slowly but surely start to see this system kicking out, but through the day today, still dealing with a bit of that snow. We could even see some of these showers working across basically places from Boston to Philadelphia here as we get through the afternoon hours today. Impressive amounts of snow. You're going to have to look up to the northern portions of Maine. That's where we'll see upwards of 4 to 6, maybe even 8 inches, and isolated amounts higher than that as we get through the next couple of days. In the meantime, we're going to watch the middle of the country for a couple other things going on. We've got a low pressure system that's moving out of Canada and bringing the potential for some snow showers across parts of the northern Rockies and the northern plains today. Across parts of the south, we'll see this other low pressure system that'll kind of start some rumbles of thunder, some showers, some thunderstorm potential will be there here even as we get into the day tomorrow, and it'll really ramp up as we head into Friday. But notice there's more snow on tap for tomorrow for that same area, the northern plains. As we look ahead to your Friday, we see this snow work across parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. It does intensify, so we'll see a good amount of snow in some of those spots. And on top of that, the southeast will start to see some of that heavy rain working in, and the storm potential too will focus along parts of the Gulf Coast. And then unfortunately, just in time for your Saturday plans, looks like it'll be a soggy start to the weekend here across parts of the eastern seaboard. And then we'll also be dealing with parts of northern New England picking up some heavy kind of wet snow. And I know what you're thinking. I thought it was spring. Yeah, well, it's early spring, so we still have that snow potential until temperatures really start to surge in the coming weeks. As far as rain is concerned, I think the higher amounts will be places like Texas, along the East Coast, parts of southern Florida. We'll see maybe 2 to 3 inches. And you can see there's a good dose of rain in store for much of this region here as we get through your Saturday. Now, snowfall, it looks like those higher amounts, 9 inches, maybe a foot in some spots. But overall, we're going to have to look to parts of northern Maine, maybe parts of the Dakotas to see some of those higher amounts. Otherwise, places like Detroit, Buffalo, Boston could see maybe an inch or so by the time we get into the weekend. The rain and the wind is on tap for your Saturday, but guys, look at that. The spring sunshine returns for the east. We'll have to deal with the wet, cold snow for parts of the other half of the country as we get into Sunday.
So not really spring in some parts of the country.
And that's how you sum it up.
So bizarre, yeah. All right. We're looking for the spring sunshine now. I like that. Thanks, Angie. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, prescription problem. Researchers sounding the alarm on popular weight loss loss drugs, why they say those meds may not be going to the people who actually need them.
Up first after the break, crime decline. New numbers show crime in America is actually trending down. We're going to break down the data from the FBI and why the numbers could be surprising. We'll be right back. We're back now with new data from the FBI that shows dramatically declining crime rates across the U.S. Still, though, a majority of Americans believe crime is getting worse, even though this new information paints a different picture.
The numbers indicate there was a significant drop in crime last year, continuing the trend that started just after the end of COVID pandemic lockdowns. Here with a deeper dive on these numbers is co-founder of Datalytics, Jeff Asher. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So when looking at these stats provided by the FBI, what are the major takeaways from the data for you? What have been the key factors in the fact that it seems crime rates are improving quite a bit?
I think the first thing we have to do is caveat that these are preliminary numbers. It's coming from about 13,000 agencies out of the 18,000 total that will report by the end of the year. And in October, the FBI will put out their final numbers. What we see is a dramatic 13% decline in murder, which really jumps out. The previous largest decline 1 year to the next nationally was 9% in 1996. So it certainly suggests that last year we had the largest 1 year decline in murder that's ever been recorded. The violent crime, 6% violent crime rate decline would be on top of a violent crime rate decline last year that the FBI reported, and could potentially lead to the lowest violent crime rate ever reported nationally. And significantly down from where violent crime was in 2020, down even further from where it was in the 90s. Also saw a decline in property crime, which was kind of marred by a big increase in auto theft, which was driven a little bit by social media trends that were leading to certain models of cars being easier to steal than others.
So let's talk about the public perception here. A Gallup poll released at the end of last year found nearly 80% of adults in the U.S. believed crime was getting worse. Why the disconnect here? How do you flip that?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One is this data vacuum. Again, it won't be until October that we have 2023's final numbers. If you can imagine waiting until the summer to figure out who won last year's World Series, that's essentially the world of crime data. So we have to scrape by other sources, and this quarterly data, preliminary data from the FBI is really helpful for that, but it's not final. The other sort of explanation that I tend to point to is that there's this saying, the media doesn't cover the planes that land. And we don't usually see crime stories of, hey, there were no murders yesterday, nobody got robbed, there were no shopliftings. It's only when events occur that we tend to hear about them. And that leads people to develop these anecdotes and this understanding from incomplete information or from recency bias. And then we've seen huge amounts of partisanship in this issue. Only, and I say only, 52% or so of Democrats said that crime rose last year in this Gallup poll that you're referencing, which is still the largest share of Democrats, but it was nearly 90% of Republicans. And so we've seen this widening partisan gap on what different people believe about crime trends based on their political persuasion. And that's a very new phenomenon nationally.
So we saw this spike in crime during COVID, right? Let's talk now about what some of these significant challenges are that remain for law enforcement. Just a minute ago on our screen, we were playing video of something that does seem to kind of be a newer trend, or at least something that we're hearing a lot more about, to your point, something that we're covering more, the smash and grabs or crash and grabs, depending on the situation. What different types of crimes are law enforcement now having to deal with?
Auto theft is the one that is become a much more serious issue over the last 12 to 18 months. In the summer of 2022, a video was on TikTok that showed how to steal certain models of Kias and Hyundais. And in a lot of cities, overnight, you basically saw doubling or tripling of auto thefts. And usually crime goes up 5%, maybe it goes down 10%. That's a large decline or a large increase. You were seeing 100, 150% increases almost overnight. The real issue that I think a lot of agencies are dealing with are more structural. Agencies lost a lot of officers between 2019 and 2022, especially big agencies, and they're really struggling to hire. So this means that they're struggling with response times. It means that clearance rates for things like murder have reached historic lows. And with these being more structural issues, they're not easy solutions. Agencies are trying to throw money at recruits to get more officers on board, And that's not necessarily turning things around like it did in the 90s when the federal government and states and cities could just spend a lot of money on police recruiting, and it led to larger classes.
All right. Jeff Asher, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Yes, we do.
Thanks for
Well, the
having
head of the Federal Aviation Administration is speaking out following his visit to Boeing's factory floor. An audit found that Boeing focused more on mass production than on safety standards, leading the FAA to expand its oversight of Boeing. Here's Nightly News anchor Lester Holt in his exclusive interview with FAA Administrator Mike Whitaker.
It's been 2 months since a door plug blew out of an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9, leaving Boeing once again under a microscope.
What we saw was not the safety culture that we were looking for.
I spoke to FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker at Reagan National Airport about his recent visit to the Boeing factory floor.
There are issues around the safety culture in Boeing. Their priorities have been on production and not on safety and quality. And so what we really are focused on now is shifting that focus from production to safety and quality.
What were some of the things you saw that gave you concern?
Well, really looking for that indicator of a safety culture. So before going out on the floor of a manufacturing floor, you would expect a thorough safety briefing. That wasn't part of the process. And then reviewing the floor, expected a lot of conversation around quality assurance and safety. And again, that wasn't there. It was all about production. And there's nothing wrong with production, but it has to follow safety.
Were you a bit surprised that this would be happening, you, the top FAA person visiting, and something as simple as staging a safety briefing didn't take place?
I think it really shows how the mindset has been on production. And I think you would have expected at least more of a show of focus on safety, and that was lacking.
In a statement, Boeing says, "We are taking significant action to strengthen safety and quality at Boeing. We are focused on demonstrating change and building trust one airplane at a time. This increased scrutiny, whether from ourselves, from the FAA, or from others, will make us better." Have you seen anything that indicates that bad airplanes are leaving the factory, planes with safety of flight issues related to production?
There are not unsafe airplanes leaving that factory.
If you saw something that concerned you about the safety of planes leaving the factory, would you shut it down?
Absolutely.
Is Boeing too big to fail, in your opinion?
Economics isn't part of my portfolio, but I would say they're too big to not make a good airplane. They have all the resources they need. There's no reason they can't make a good airplane, and that's our focus right now.
You feel confident that Boeing will get its act together?
I don't think they have a choice, so I am confident they will.
Whitaker is also concerned about a series of aviation incidents, many involving United Airlines, from this older 777 that had a tire fall off in takeoff to this incident last Friday when a panel ripped off the fuselage of a jet. Whitaker says he spoke to United CEO Scott Kirby over the weekend.
I know that they're taking some heightened measures and looking at these issues. We're going to look at each one of these incidents and see if we see a pattern.
Did you express your concern?
He's concerned, I'm concerned. No one likes to see this spike of incidents. So we're both doing our jobs to look at where those risks might be.
In a letter to passengers, United says safety is our highest priority and is at the center of everything we do. What's your message to the flying public right now as they read some of these disturbing headlines we've been covering?
Well, they should know that the system is safe. It's still the safest way to travel, but we are working vigilantly to make sure it stays that way. This is an ongoing task. We're always looking for risks and addressing those risks.
Our thanks to Lester Holt for that exclusive interview.
Now to what's making news around the world this morning. Tensions are rising in the Middle East as Israel's prime minister renews his pledge to launch an offensive in Rafah.
NBC News international correspondent Josh Letterman joins us now. Hey, Josh, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Prime Minister Netanyahu is vowing to go ahead with a military operation in Rafah in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltered. That is despite President Biden warning him not to do it in what Netanyahu called an argument. The U.S. says Israel is sending a team of advisors to the U.S. to discuss that Rafah operation. Now let's head to Hong Kong, where the legislature has rushed through a massive new national security bill in just 11 days. This law gives the government more power to crack down on dissent against Beijing and China's Communist Party. It builds on a similar law Hong Kong enacted in 2020 that triggered deadly protests. And back here in the UK, construction workers building a parking lot have stumbled on something more than gravel and asphalt. It is a marble Roman statue of a woman's head, and it is nearly 2,000 years old. Experts believe it was probably brought from Italy in the 1700s to England, where it will now be put on display. Guys?
That's quite the
In a
find.
parking
All right.
lot? That's amazing. Josh, thank you so much.
Be careful where you dig.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Coming up, life after Roe. New numbers show a recent rise in abortions by medication as the Supreme Court prepares to weigh a new case.
Plus, rough day. There's Lucy. Try petting your pup. It turns out our four-legged friends could be all the medicine we need to relieve stress. We'll break down the research and show you more pictures of our team and their dogs next on Morning News Now.
We're back with new data on abortions in the U.S. Research shows medical abortions are on the rise. It comes as the Supreme Court prepares to hear arguments that could restrict the use of abortion pills across the country. NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns takes a closer look.
New data revealing there were more than 1 million abortions in the U.S. last year, the highest number in more than a decade. A big part of that, medication abortion. Research from the Guttmacher Institute shows they accounted for 63% of abortions in 2023, up 10% from 2020. Dr. Charisse Felix has witnessed this trend firsthand at this Planned Parenthood clinic in Miami.
You're able to schedule that around your job, around other family obligations, and then there's also the whole added benefit of it not being an invasive procedure.
The FDA has approved the drug for use at up to 10 weeks of pregnancy, and under current rules allows for providers to prescribe it via telehealth and to send it to patients in the mail. That's exactly how CEO and podcast host Erin Gallagher was able to access the abortion pill.
It arrived in my mailbox, and from there it was up to me to decide when and if I wanted to take it. And as I made the decision to do it, it removes so many barriers.
But all that could soon change because of a case before the Supreme Court that could restrict the mailing of abortion pills, require that the drug be provided in person at a doctor's office, and limit its use up to 7 weeks of pregnancy.
Most of our patients are finding out that they're pregnant around 7 or 8 weeks.
The group behind the lawsuit, Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, which is against abortion rights, believes the FDA exceeded its authority when it made the drug more accessible. What do you intend to argue before the Supreme Court next week?
We're going to explain to the court and show how the FDA has unlawfully and recklessly removed common sense safeguards for women and girls who take abortion drugs. In particular, we're going to highlight the dangerous nature of what FDA did in 2021 to authorize mail order chemical abortion without any medical intervention or screening.
In court filings, the government states this drug has been deemed safe and effective since 2000 and says the FDA updated the drug's approval as decades of experience have further confirmed the drug's safety. The High Court now holding the future of this in-demand drug in its hands. Dasha Burns, NBC News, Miami, Florida.
Well, now it is time for our weekly medical checkup. This week, we're taking a look at those popular weight loss medications and who researchers say are missing out on getting them.
Plus, the benefits of spending time with dogs and how quality time with your pet may decrease stress and help you focus. NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Sayala is here to help us break down the headlines. So let's start with the weight loss medication. So there's a new abstract presented at the American Heart Association conference found medications like Wegovy and Zepbound are rarely prescribed to those who actually need them. Why is that? What else did they find?
So these drugs are all the rage right now. I think most of us by now have heard about them. And guys, we've talked about some issues with these drugs in terms of access, right? People, one, can't afford them. If, out of pocket, they can cost about $1,000 a month. And two, people aren't getting prescriptions for them, and they're not getting their insurances to cover them. There's issues with these. But what Johns Hopkins did, guys, with this paper was they found that they looked at people who, are suffering from obesity and whose insurances were actually going to cover this. And they found that only 2% of people actually got the prescriptions they needed for this.
2%?
Even if those barriers are met, just 2% of people are actually getting the prescriptions for these. So there's something going on with the doctor-patient setup that is not allowing for this conversation to take place. So that brings us really to our doctor's orders here. And if you are somebody who's going to be talking about this, and you want to talk about this and it doesn't come up, don't be afraid to start the conversation. Talking about obesity can be a very difficult thing for both the doctor and the patient. But if it is on your list of questions to address, which we always recommend you do that before a visit, don't be afraid to bring it up.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk dogs now. So we have new research, right? It says it helps you relax, concentrate. What should we know?
Yeah, so we have known for a while that, the human-dog relationship has numerous health benefits.
That's my dog.
Oh, what's your dog's name? Well,
and there's Anna and Chandler with their dog, Sydney with
very
her
nice,
dog.
very nice. We got the whole family on the show.
Tyler and his dog.
So we know that, the human-dog relationship, even just making eye contact with the dog can improve oxytocin, that love hormone that we talk about, which... So what they did with this study, Savannah, is that they took electrodes and they actually put it on people's brains. And what they wanted to know is when we have that dog relationship, what is it actually doing? And guys, what they found was that, walking a dog, petting a dog can improve things like cognition and mood and actually change some of the brainwaves. So there is some science behind this, some real science behind this. So doctor's orders here, guys. Don't be afraid
Get a dog.
Get a dog. Adopt a dog. Don't be afraid to take pet breaks. Try dog sitting if you are not sure you want to make the commitment to our fur little friends. There's apps you can do this now. Just try it out. Get a little dose here and there. It can have numerous health benefits.
We should be clear. Get a dog if you feel you can, and you're in a situation where you feel you can care.
There's also stress added with a dog in addition to that.
It was on there.
Exactly. All right.
But it is true. When my dog makes eye contact with me, I'm like, oh. You love me.
Or just spend time in the park if you can't.
Have your own. Just watch
all the other
park.
dogs and get that boost from that. All right, Dr. Sayal, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Great to see you. Coming up, unlocking the secret to happiness.
This morning, we are celebrating this International Happiness Day with best-selling author and happiness expert Arthur Brooks. Hear his tips on staying positive and finding the joy in every day, beyond dogs.
Yeah.
You're watching Morning News Now.
Welcome back. Let's get to some financial headlines, starting with the latest on safety concerns over Boeing's 737 MAX aircraft.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning to you. Yes, so the head of the FAA says Boeing must improve its safety culture and address quality issues before he'll allow the company to boost production of the 737 MAX. In the wake of that door panel incident on an Alaska Airlines flight back in January. Now, Mike Whitaker says the FAA hasn't begun discussions with Boeing yet. He says Boeing is allowed to produce 38 of the 737 MAX planes per month, but actual production is lower than that. Meanwhile, JetBlue is dropping service in several cities and reducing flights out of Los Angeles as it focuses on stronger markets after years of losing money. Starting in mid-June, JetBlue will pull out of Kansas City, Bogotá, Colombia, Quito, Ecuador, and Lima, Peru. And it will also drop several destinations from LA, including Seattle, San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Miami, and end flights between Fort Lauderdale and Atlanta and New York and Detroit. And, well, eat more pizza. Chick-fil-A is rolling out several pizza varieties, including one topped with its signature chicken nuggets. The pizzas will only be on the menu at one location, Chick-fil-A's Test Kitchen in College Park, Maryland. The company says it noticed customers were getting creative with its ingredients on pizzas at home, so it decided to jump on board, guys.
Wow. Well, see, I like a barbecue chicken pizza, so I feel like that works. You
Awesome.
I do too. Yeah, I guess you can make it work.
I'm not sure.
Normally, Joe's up for a taste test. He does not look like he wants to try
I don't know if that one's on the menu.
Thanks, Silvana.
All right, in case you needed an excuse to smile this morning, we've got you covered because today is the International Day of Happiness.
Isn't that great? The official holiday began just over 10 years ago, and it's celebrated around the world with the goal of spreading the message that true progress in humanity comes from our happiness and well-being.
Here to help us put happiness into practice is Harvard professor and social scientist Arthur Brooks. Good to have you with us. So first, as a leading happiness expert, we should ask, how do you plan to celebrate International Happiness Day? Because I feel like we should celebrate it, right?
Well, for sure. I mean, it's a good opportunity to celebrate something we should be celebrating every day, really. And the way for each of us to actually get happier this day and get better habits toward happiness actually don't revolve around the self-care that you'll often think about. Be happier. Go get a massage. Go actually care for other people. Do something that shows love for others, and that will increase your own happiness. And today's a good day to remember that and a good excuse to go do that. Be kind to others today, and you'll find greater happiness in your own life.
I think so many people think of happiness, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but right as this like fleeting thing that you're always chasing that's like mixed in with all these other emotions, and sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. But what does the word happiness mean to you? And is it possible for that to be a more sustainable emotion?
Well, as a scientist, I look at it a little bit differently than most people talk about it in common life. Happiness is actually not a feeling. Feelings are evidence of happiness, like the smell of your turkey is evidence of your Thanksgiving dinner. Happiness is actually a combination of three real measurable things: your enjoyment with life, your satisfaction with your accomplishments, and your sense of meaning in your life. And there are different protocols and different strategies for pursuing all three of those different things, and they're all incredibly great projects. That's what I really talk about in my research, and that's what I bring ideas on in my books and articles.
As much as we want to be happy, we still deal with anger, we deal with sadness, we deal with grief, a lot of challenges. So when you're experiencing those things, what's some of your best advice to try and find happiness, or just to get a little extra positivity in your life?
Don't worry about being unhappy. There's no reason to think that unhappiness is something you need to get rid of, because guess what? You can't. A full life has lots of negative emotions in it. Emotions are not good or bad. They're negative or positive, so you'll be able to react to what's going on around you. And if you're trying to get rid of your negative emotions, what you're going to do is you're not going to experience life fully. It's very important to wake up each day and say, I am grateful for the wonderful things that are going to happen this day, and I'm going to use and learn and grow from the things that I don't like this day, and it will set you up to actually have a full life. All kinds of emotions are what we actually need, and happiness requires a lot of unhappiness too.
What should we think about, as much as we can, if there's something that we could remind ourselves when we wake up each day, especially maybe if you are going through one of those things, dealing with grief, dealing with something stressful at work or whatever? I mean, is there a way to kind of try to hold on to some happiness, or try to center our day around that, something you can give us to hold on to?
Yeah, sure. There actually is a happiness cheat code, believe it or not. This is not a video game, but there is a cheat code for happiness. And that's that happiness is love. Now, love is not a feeling more than happiness is. Love is a choice. It's to will somebody else's good. But to focus each day on love of the divine through your faith, love toward your family members, love toward your friends, love expressed toward everybody in the way that you do your work. Choose to love no matter what you're feeling. That's the cheat code for getting happier today.
I love that. Exactly. Arthur Brooks, we loved this segment. So there you go. That brings us some happiness. Thank you so much, and happy International Happiness Day. We are so grateful you joined us on it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's made me happy to be with you.
Oh.
I like that. Happy day. All right.
Thank you so
Coming
much.
up, there is no place like home for one of the most recognized pairs of shoes in all of film.
That is right. Judy Garland's ruby red slippers back with their rightful owner after 19 years, and it took much more than clicking their heels. We'll take you down the yellow brick road next on Morning News Now.
Welcome back. The chronic iconic Dr. Dre finally got his very own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Tuesday's ceremony drew a who's who of hip-hop, with familiar favorites like Eminem, 50 Cent, and Snoop Dogg by his side. And speaking of the D.O.G., Snoop actually thanked himself for the mogul's honor, telling the crowd, "I want to thank me for listening to Dre over the years and letting him be my teacher, mentor, and good friend." Dr. Dre also shared some heartfelt remarks of his own. The Compton native told the audience that he never imagined he might end up beside some of his childhood heroes on Hollywood Boulevard, proving even in the face of some pretty scary health incidents recently, he is, after all, still Dre.
That is so awesome. All right, we're going to end the hour talking about one of the most iconic film props in history, Judy Garland's ruby red slippers worn in The Wizard of Oz. The pair was finally returned to their owner after being stolen 19 years ago. Reporter Ken Erdahl of our Minneapolis affiliate has that amazing story.
After more shocking twists than even The Wizard of Oz could have dreamt up, the rightful owner of these original ruby slippers finally got the reunion he'd spent 19 years waiting for.
They're in very good shape.
Michael Shaw owned the famed Hollywood props, one of just a handful of pairs in the world, for 35 years, until they were stolen in 2005 from this very podium while on loan to the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids.
How do I feel? It's like welcoming back an old friend that I haven't seen in years.
And it wasn't Shaw's only emotional reunion on that cold February day.
Just overjoyed and surprised. Everyone at the museum kept it a secret from me, so I was totally shocked when I arrived that day at the museum.
For museum curator John Kelsch, it's a much happier shock.
They were in a plexiglass case right here.
Then that fateful morning, which he relived for us and many others 10 years ago.
They broke in through that door They smashed the window on that emergency exit door.
For years, he says the theft scarred the museum's reputation.
70% of the visitors ask, did you ever find the slippers?
And after years of searching and even diving for answers, turned up nothing. Rumors and tensions between the two men at the center of it all grew.
Basically, Michael Shaw and myself became suspects. 60% of robberies are what they call an inside job. The public knows that, too.
That finally changed in 2018.
Under the rainbow.
When the FBI unveiled that the slippers had been recovered, but it took another 5 years before they charged 76-year-old Terry Martin for the theft. And his sentencing in late January of this year finally cleared the way for this reunion.
We want to formally return your shoes to you. We thought it was fitting that we do it here in the museum where they were stolen.
Proud, just proud that they came home, at least for that short time.
Yes, the slippers have already left the building, being prepared for a public world tour with stops in LA, New York, London, Paris, and Tokyo before Heritage Auctions puts them on sale to the highest bidder in December.
Any word that those slippers will make another stop during this tour?
No, I think that's why they came to us first.
But if you think this is the end of the yellow brick road, think again.
This is really only the beginning. There's going to be motion pictures produced. There's going to be television, streaming documentaries.
Have you thought about who would play you in a movie?
No.
I won't be in the movie. John will.
God, I have no idea.
Yet to be determined.
That's pretty cool and good for him. Our thanks to Kent Erdahl for that report.
It's like some John Malkovich vibes. All right, that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday morning. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, the battle at the southern border is heating back up. A contentious legal fight taking shape today over a controversial immigration law in Texas. We're on the ground with a new ruling from the Supreme Court, the lower court that's now blocking the law, and what the future of border crossings could look like in the Lone Star State. Another primary day in America yielding more major victories for former President Trump, including a win in battleground Ohio. But it wasn't just Mr. Trump on the ballot there. Our Steve Kornacki has more on the Trump-backed Republican who's now set to challenge Democratic incumbent Sherrod Brown for his seat in the Senate. We're also watching your wallet with a widely anticipated decision from the Federal Reserve on interest rates expected later today, what the central bank could say this time around, and what it all means for America's fight against inflation. Plus, NASA's latest class of astronauts ready to boldly go where few have traveled before. But do you have what it takes to join them and make it to the final frontier? Do you think you've got the right stuff? Stick around for your chance to make it to space. I did go to space camp once in Alabama, cool. Which was very exciting as an adult.
I went to the Johnson Space Center once. That's about it.
And that was it.
I did get to go into the Orion mock-up, which was pretty cool, which will head to the moon. But
and now we are here, so that explains what happened. All right. Let's begin in Texas, where the legal battle over a controversial immigration law is heating up in courtrooms across the country.
Yeah, this morning that law is temporarily on hold as oral arguments are set to begin in federal appeals court. At issue, whether to allow Texas to start implementing the law that allows local officials to arrest and even deport migrants suspected of entering the country illegally. It comes after the Supreme Court issued a decision allowing the law to take effect yesterday, delivering a defeat for the Biden administration, which opposes the law. Morgan Chesky has the latest.
Yeah, good morning. And right now, law enforcement all across Texas, but especially those here at the border, find themselves really in uncharted waters. They watched as the Supreme Court decided not to block SB 4 from going into effect. They heard Governor Greg Abbott say this is positive progress. Then just hours later, watched as that lower court decided to reinstate that pause, at least for now. In the meantime, critics say SB 4 could open the door to potential racial profiling. And local law enforcement we spoke to are concerned that this could put a strain on leading departments, even more so. This morning, whiplash on the border. The state of Texas again barred from enforcing a controversial new immigration policy that would have let local officers arrest migrants suspected of illegally crossing the border.
For several hours Wednesday, Texas had claimed victory when the Supreme Court refused to block the law and kicked the case back to the appeals court. But in a twist overnight, that court put it on hold for now.
Our country's going downhill very fast, very rapidly. Millions of people coming across the border.
Border enforcement in Texas has become a major issue on the campaign trail, as the state, which has dealt with a record influx of migrants, has tried to push harsher measures. The unprecedented new law, SB 4, would allow local and state police to arrest anyone suspected of being in Texas illegally, and state judges to deport them.
Anytime you apply a consequence to a violation of law, you see the number of illegal border crossers drop exponentially.
The Biden administration arguing the Texas law interferes with federal authority over the border. The White House saying in a statement yesterday, after the Supreme Court's decision, SB 4 will not only make communities in Texas less safe, it will also burden law enforcement. In Del Rio, Texas, along the Rio Grande, Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez is grappling with how he would put this new law into practice.
Do you have any clear guidance on how to enact SB 4? We do not.
The sheriff says illegal crossings in his community north of Eagle Pass has dipped this year, but he believes the enforcement of SB 4 will put a strain on his already lean department.
So right now we're not equipped to handle that.
Now, with the latest overnight decision, the confusion on the ground sure to continue.
Now, amid all of this legal back and forth, we did hear from the country of Mexico yesterday, who said they refused to accept any deportations from the state of Texas, in addition to those they already received from the U.S. federal government. In the meantime, the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals says they have fast-tracked oral arguments on this very case to just a few hours from now, later this morning. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Morgan Chesky, thank you.
This morning, former President Donald Trump is celebrating a big win in Ohio, and it's not just in the race for president. NBC News is projecting that Trump-backed candidate Bernie Moreno has won the Republican Senate primary there. It's not all good news, though, for the former president. He now has just 5 days to post a bond for that $464 million fraud judgment against him in New York. And if he misses that deadline, the financial consequences could be dire. NBC's senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake is the latest from Washington. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, the biggest political story overnight was definitely that race in Ohio, where a Trump loyalist is now the Republican nominee. But for Mr. Trump himself, the victory capped another day of political controversy and a growing cash crunch as his legal obligations to the tune of nearly $500 million come due. Overnight, a victory for former President Trump. In the closely watched Senate race in Ohio, Mr. Trump's preferred candidate winning Tuesday's primary.
I want to thank President Trump for all he did for me.
After the former president traveled to the swing state, which is central to the GOP goal of flipping the Senate this year. And yesterday, Trump himself cast his primary ballot in Florida with his wife Melania. And lashing out at the New York judge and attorney general over that $464 million civil fraud judgment now threatening his real estate empire.
We have a great company, but they want to take it away.
Mr. Trump has just 5 days to come up with the cash to post bond or risk having his assets seized by the state. His lawyers said Monday he was unable to secure a bond after approaching some 30 lenders. Mr. Trump on social media warning he, quote, would be forced to mortgage or sell great assets, perhaps at fire sale prices. That can include iconic properties like Trump Tower and 40 Wall Street, golf courses and resorts around the world, even his private plane. Meanwhile, the former president is facing a swift backlash for his comments about Jewish people who vote for Democrats, now digging in his heels.
The Democrats have been very, very opposed to Jewish people. That's true.
The firestorm began Monday when Mr. Trump was asked about Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's rebuke of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who Schumer said should be replaced in new elections. Mr. Trump saying Democrats are being swayed by protests over President Biden's policy on Gaza, adding,
any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion, they hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves because Israel will be destroyed.
Schumer firing back Tuesday.
The former president's comments were utterly disgusting and a textbook example of the kind of anti-Semitism facing Jews.
Meantime, the former president's legal team just filed his Supreme Court brief in his federal election interference case, arguing that he should be granted absolute immunity for any official acts he undertook as president. The legal team adding, quote, the president cannot function if faced with prosecution after holding office, and that without it, every future president would be incapacitated. Oral arguments for that case are scheduled for April 25th. Savannah, Joe.
All right, Garrett, thank you.
For more on last night's primary, we are joined by NBC News national political correspondent Steve Kornacki. Steve is here in studio at the big board. Thanks, as always, Steve, for joining us. So Ohio was this case where a Donald Trump MAGA candidate was against a state GOP establishment candidate. The MAGA candidate won. Break down what we saw in the Buckeye State and what you expected to see.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, this picture honestly tells the story because these are the counties in Ohio. And this color here, this salmon color, is what we assigned to Bernie Moreno. And every single county in Ohio, Moreno, the Trump-backed candidate, ended up carrying last night. Matt Dolan, who had that backing from Mike DeWine, the Republican governor, former Senator Rob Portman, folks calling him more the establishment candidate, whatever term you want. But those were the two main candidates. And, you know, Dolan was supposed to have some strong areas on this map. He was supposed to be, his sort of neck of the woods is Cuyahoga County around Cleveland. This is one of the biggest vote-producing counties. You got a lot of suburban areas in here. The suburban areas have been where the Trump forces have been the weakest. Dolan had run for the Senate before in Ohio just 2 years ago. He carried Cuyahoga County. He carried Geauga County. He carried Geauga County right outside of it, another suburban area. He also carried another biggie Dolan did the last time he ran, Franklin County. This is where Columbus, the state capital, is. Also lots of suburbs, lots of densely populated suburbs around there. But all of them, he did better, Dolan did, in these places than he did elsewhere. But Moreno ended up carrying all of them. So I think the magnitude of this, I think the margin here, about 18 points, is higher than was expected.
Little earthquake in Ohio there. All right, so let's look ahead now. Moreno's going to take on the incumbent Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown in a matchup that's going to be crucial for the balance of power in the Senate. Republicans see a chance to flip a blue state in a blue seat in a red state. What should we know about this matchup? What parts of Ohio will you be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, some of the ones I just circled, as a matter of fact, because, in a general election, it's the suburbs we've been seeing, again, where there's been the slack for Trump, been the slack for Trump-aligned Republicans in other places around the country. So if Sherrod Brown, the Democrat, is going to win this race in November, I think that's where he's going to have to pick up sort of that extra layer of support he would need, because the problem for Sherrod Brown here is, I think we have this, we can call it up here. I mean, this is the 2020 presidential result in Ohio. Remember, Donald Trump won this state by 8 points. And in fact, you could go back, see if, 4 years earlier, 2016, also 8 points. And I'm not sure if this will stretch out to 12. It will, yes. So this is the long-term story in Ohio. Remember, this was sort of a premier swing state, 2004, 2008, 2012. But when Donald Trump came along, the Republican margin actually increased significantly to 8 points to 8 points. And this is thought now of as basically a safe red state in presidential elections. And so unless there's a big surprise there, if Sherrod Brown, the Democrat's going to win that Senate seat, which Democrats need him to do to keep the Senate, he's going to need Trump voters to cross over and vote for him.
All right, Steve Kornacki, we always appreciate when you are here. Thank you so much.
Got it.
Tensions are escalating between the U.S. and Israel over the months-long war in Gaza as heavy fighting continues to rage. The Israeli military is once again targeting Gaza's largest hospital, which it says is being used by Hamas to carry out terrorist activity. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Raf, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Disagreements over Israeli plans to attack the city of Rafah are driving a real wedge in U.S.-Israel relations right now. President Biden making very clear he opposes any large-scale military operation in Rafah. But speaking in front of Parliament, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sounding defiant.
This morning, growing fear in Rafah as Israel refuses to back down on plans for a major offensive, despite warnings from the White House. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying he told President Biden a ground assault is the only way to destroy Hamas units hiding in the southern Gaza city. We have an argument with the Americans about the need to enter Rafah, he says. But the U.S. increasingly alarmed about what that'll mean for more than 1 million Palestinian civilians sheltering there. and asking Netanyahu to send a team to Washington to discuss alternatives to an all-out attack.
Obviously, he has his own point of view on a Rafah operation, but he agreed that he would send a team to Washington.
The U.S. hoping to convince Israel to take on Hamas with smaller, targeted raids. But another problem underground. Rafah is home to Hamas smuggling tunnels used to bring in weapons like these.
Mortars, RPGs, IEDs.
We went with Israeli forces into tunnels in Han Yunis and asked about their plans for Rafah.
How can you fight there without causing mass casualties of innocent people?
We'll have to find a way if we go there.
U.S. diplomacy coming too late for the Al-Hashash family. This is what's left of their home after an Israeli strike.
It's a little boy.
Mahmoud says his parents and 3 siblings were killed. It's now up to him to look after his little sister, an orphan trying to make his way through this cruel war.
And Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in the Middle East today, his trip starting in Saudi Arabia. He arrives as Canada announces it is cutting off arms sales to Israel. That's something that's causing a lot of anger over here. Human Rights Watch is urging the United States to do the same, but that is a step President Biden has said at this point he is not prepared to take. Jeff.
All right, Ralph, thank you so much.
Now let's head to Tennessee, where new details are emerging about the disappearance of college student Riley Strain. Police released new video that appears to show him moments before he disappeared 11 days ago. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park joins us from Nashville, Tennessee, with the latest here. Kathy, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. That's right. Nearly 2 weeks ago, Riley Strain was here in downtown Nashville enjoying a night out with his fraternity brothers when he vanished after leaving one of these bars. And this morning, there's still no sign of him. And that's why there's a growing movement among volunteers to help find Riley.
This morning, a renewed focus in the urgent search for missing college student Riley Strain.
This isn't going away. We keep going until we have absolutely nothing, no new tips, no traces of anything to follow up on.
Nashville authorities and volunteers planning to ramp up their search efforts this week with a particular focus near the Cumberland River, where officials say Riley was last seen, and the same area where 2 volunteers found Riley's bank card.
We come and found his credit card. We got to hang up.
The first major break in days.
I don't really know how we found it. I would love to say just dumb luck, divine intervention. It was just sitting there.
As a mystery deepens, the latest video released by Nashville police shows a 22-year-old college student the night he disappeared while visiting Music City with his fraternity brothers.
How you doing, sir? I'm good. How are you? Good.
Officials say Riley did not appear distressed in the brief exchange with the police officer. That occurred after Riley was escorted out of Luke Bryan's bar around 9:30 p.m. on March 8th. Other security videos show Riley stumbling in downtown Nashville, even falling at one point. 11 days later, police still saying there's no signs of foul play or evidence of a crime at all.
One of the concerns is that Riley was being chased, he was being followed. We have seen no evidence of that.
Riley's family and friends, not giving up their fight to find him, remain hopeful he'll be found alive.
We're still here, bud. We're looking for you. We want to take you home for graduation.
His heartbroken mother pleading for help to find their son.
He's my best friend. He's everything.
And the United Cajun Navy, known for responding to natural disasters, will be bringing in extra resources, including boats. They'll be working with authorities here on the ground, but combing the Cumberland River this week. Meanwhile, ground searches have been a bit more challenging because of the rough terrain and also other hazards in the way, like debris and trash. Savannah?
All right, Kathy Park, thank you so much.
Now to the latest on the economy, as the Federal Reserve is set to announce the latest interest rate decision today.
Yeah, this comes as Americans are still feeling the burden of higher costs, and with inflation remaining higher than the Fed would like, concerns are now growing over whether the central bank will have to keep rates higher for longer.
Joining us now for more is NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Brian, good morning. Okay, so we know the Fed would like to see interest or inflation around 2%. We're not there yet, so what can we expect?
Yeah, well, inflation right now is around 3.2%. So the Federal Reserve has said, look, we don't need to get
to 2% before we start cutting interest rates, but we at least want to see further signs of progress, and they haven't really gotten that because inflation has been kind of floating around that 3% range for the last 9 months or so. So that's why the expectation from the Fed's announcement later on this afternoon is going to be they're not going to do anything to interest rates. They're going to keep it where it is right now. The target is between 5.25% and 5.5%. But of course, as is always the case with these meetings, we want to hear what Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, says with regards to maybe later on this year they could begin cutting interest rates, which I'm sure will be welcome news for a lot of people on the sidelines of the housing market or just hopeful that their credit card borrowing costs might go down soon.
Yeah, it's going to come down to some very specific words
sure,
that you all tell us about what that might mean that we hear today. So what does this mean, though, about progress we've made? I mean, things like interest rates or, all these levers and pulleys that the Fed can kind of push on, pull on to try to get the economy in the right place. But if inflation's still not looking great, what does that mean about progress?
Yeah, well, I mean, inflation, and we don't need to get into the economics of it because people feel that at the store. But, I mean, it was brutal. And it still remains high. But here's the thing. It's better than the 9% rate that we had seen in the summer of 2022. The yearly rate of inflation is somewhere around 3.2% now. But again, the Fed's target is 2%. Now, what do interest rates have to do with that, right? The thing is that when the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it makes borrowing costs more expensive. And what that does is it kind of tells people maybe you should pull back on spending, which doesn't feed the inflation that people, these businesses go, well, I can't raise my prices anymore because people, it costs them more to put charges on the credit card. So those are the interactions between those two things. So if the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates high, the idea is they can keep their foot down on inflation. Again, they want to make sure they see evidence of that actually having the impact of getting closer to 2% before they decide to go in the opposite direction of cutting rates.
So if we don't see cuts in the near future, just what does it mean for everyday folks on Main Street?
Yeah, well, I mean, for borrowing costs, they're going to likely remain high because the Fed, if they don't, which we expect to, change interest rates today, that means that your mortgage rates are going to remain relatively elevated. Your credit card borrowing costs are going to remain relatively elevated. Same thing with auto loans. So the idea is that in this type of environment where borrowing costs are high, try to pay down your debt. But the good thing is you can also put money into a high yield savings account. So there is the plus of you're getting a little bit more if you do choose to put it in a CD account or into, again, other ways to save your money because the rates are relatively good.
All right. Brian Chung. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you. Now let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather.
Angie Lastman is here with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We got a lot to talk about over the next couple of days with some storm systems leaving us with some unsettled weather across the country, even as we get into the weekend. So let's start out with what's going on today. We've got a low pressure system coming out of Canada. That's going to leave us with some snow showers to deal with across parts of the northern plains and the Rockies. We've also got a low pressure system that we're watching across parts of the southern tier of the country. That's going to leave us unsettled, not just today and tomorrow and even the day after that, across parts of the south. We're going to see some showers, some thunderstorms, and the potential for some stronger storms to develop too. We'll also be watching that snow to continue working its way across the northern tier of the country, leaving us with some slick roads and some steady snow for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes over the next 2 days. By the time we get into Friday, this is the setup that you'll see. We'll start to have some of that snow working into parts of New England. We get the southeast and the Gulf Coast in on the action as far as the rain is concerned. It'll be heavy at times, and then much of the eastern seaboard now covered with that rain potential here as we get into your Saturday plans. We'll also see parts of northern New England dealing with the heavy and wet snow for your Saturday too. So again, it's going to be a difficult day for travel in that region. As far as rainfall totals are concerned, 1 inch to 2 inches is more likely. Some spots could see up to 3 inches. We'll see that across parts of Texas, closer to the coast, from places like Wilmington to Atlantic City. And this will be a good drenching rain for a lot of folks. As far as the snow is concerned, some isolated amounts up to 1/2 foot are likely across parts of the Midwest. We've got the northern plains in on that, as well as northern New England. Places like Maine could see up to 1 foot of snow. But otherwise, Boston, Syracuse, places like Grand Rapids, Detroit, even Chicago, 1 inch to 3 inches is the more likely amount that you'll see through the weekend. And how about those temperatures? If you've noticed, we flipped the calendar into spring, but it hasn't really felt like it for a good chunk of the country. We're going to have a couple of scenarios that leave us with some cooler than average temperatures even into next week. Here's the deal. As far as our temperatures are concerned today, 39 degrees in Chicago. We're running 10 degrees below normal for this time of year. Minneapolis hovers at 32 degrees, right at freezing for folks there. Detroit, not much better, 37 degrees. So those below normal temperatures, they are with us today. And unfortunately, as we get into the early hours of the day tomorrow, it'll be feeling even chillier than that. We'll have those strong winds coming in, and that leaves us with a wind chill value of 30, with an actual temperature of 31, but a wind chill of 21 for New York for tomorrow morning. We look at places like Morgantown. We're going to be feeling like the teens. Cleveland, similar story there. It doesn't get much better, honestly, as we get into the daytime tomorrow. These are the highs, just 43 in New York. Washington, D.C. hits 50 degrees, so at least you make it to the 50s, but it'll feel a little chillier than that with those winds just giving a little bite to the air. Now, as we look ahead to your Friday, your Saturday, and your Sunday, a bit of a roller coaster ride and still on the chilly side for some folks. Places like Chicago into the 40s on Friday, guys, but they end up into the 30s on Saturday, and we are right back to the 40s by Sunday. So we're in a transition period. That's what I'm calling it. Not quite spring feel just yet for this section of the country, but we'll get there. I promise.
A transition period.
Yeah.
Spring is coming. All right.
Thanks.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. A little later, we're headed to space. Not Savannah and I. We won't be going, but you might just have the right stuff yourself to be NASA's next astronaut. And they're taking applications, but not for much longer.
We'll have more on that in a bit, but first, the alleged security breach related to Princess Kate's sensitive medical records. We've got the latest on that next.
We're back now with some new controversy tied to Princess Kate as she recovers from abdominal surgery. An investigation has reportedly been opened into staff at the hospital where she was treated over a possible security breach involving her medical records. NBC News International correspondent Molly Hunter joins us from Buckingham Palace with more on that. Molly, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. That's right. The headlines just aren't stopping. And this is a big one this morning. The allegation that there was a security breach at the hospital where Kate got her operation back in January. Now, we've reached out to the London clinic multiple times today. They have not given us a comment.
This morning, another day of headlines about Kate, the Princess of Wales, and a serious allegation. The Mirror breaking the news that staff at the London clinic allegedly tried to access her medical records from her January operation. A UK privacy watchdog confirming to NBC News it received a breach report and now investigating it. Kensington Palace saying this is a matter for the London clinic.
This is quite a serious breach. Even if it's someone who was just feeling a little bit nosy, they should not have been able to access her records. And for someone like the Princess of Wales, who's made it clear how much she wants to keep her privacy, this will be very alarming.
Meanwhile, Prince William carrying on, and for the second time in as many weeks, mentioning Kate.
Venturing my wife's territory. She's not here to hear this.
But the scrutiny continues as photo agencies review past handout photos from the royal family. The Getty Photo Agency and Reuters calling into question numerous digital inconsistencies in this photo taken by Kate in August of 2022. While the publication of that TMZ video showing Kate and William reportedly walking out of a Windsor farm shop this weekend provided reassurance for many, it gave rise to yet another cycle of wild conspiracy theories.
I don't know, y'all. This is honestly getting really, really weird. What do we think?
It's Kate, okay? It is Kate.
This is getting weirdly suspicious. This feels like right out of a TV show.
A Windsor neighbor and professional cricket player Kevin Peterson posting, the conspiracy theories around Kate are absolutely absurd. We see W and K most days. And yet, without any new pictures, even grainy ones, there's still questions swirling.
When the palace goes silent, it leaves a vacuum for people to ask more questions and speculate. At this point, the only way out for the royal family is full transparency. People need to see Kate Middleton and understand that they are getting the truth from the royal family.
Meanwhile, we saw King Charles drive by Buckingham Palace twice yesterday, carrying out official duties even as he undergoes cancer treatment. Subscribing to his mother's mantra, you have to be seen to be believed.
And Joe, we actually saw King Charles drive by again today. This is his frequent route just in front of us. Now, the hospital didn't respond to us. They did respond to the Mirror, and they told the paper, we firmly believe that all our patients, no matter their status, deserve total privacy and confidentiality regarding their medical information. Now, also the health ministry doing the media rounds this morning, and she talked about hefty implications for accessing patient data without permission, including prosecution and fines. Joe?
Did the king wave at you, Molly?
I waved.
You waved. All right, there we go. All right, very good.
Of all of this, that's what
Molly
we
Hunter, thank you so much. It's good to know he's
I
driving
love
around.
it. Megan waved at me once. More international headlines now, starting with a bomb scare on opening day of the MLB World Tour.
NBC News international correspondent Josh Letterman has that and other world news. Josh, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. A bomb threat targeting Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani triggered a massive police response in Seoul. But the South Korean police say they didn't find any explosives at the stadium. It came ahead of today's Dodgers game against the San Diego Padres, which is the first regular season MLB game to be played in South Korea. Now to Brazil, where former President Bolsonaro has just been indicted for allegedly falsifying his COVID-19 vaccination status. Federal police say Bolsonaro put fake vaccine certificates into the public health database to cheat the system. Bolsonaro was a loud critic of the vaccine during the pandemic and made a point of publicly ignoring health restrictions. And finally, to the happiest country in the world, Finland, which has just once again scored the highest in the World Happiness Report for a 7th year in a row. Closer to home, the U.S. has now dropped out of the top 20 and now ranks 23. But rounding up, the top 5 are Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and Israel. Kind of surprising for a country at war, but apparently they've been up in the top 10 for quite some time.
Wow.
Joe and Savannah?
Yeah, and it is International Day of Happiness.
There you go.
So there you go.
So if you're an American, we just had a great conversation to give you some tips on how to stay happy.
All right, Josh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Coming up, a potential breakthrough for some breast cancer patients.
After the break, the powerful treatment for one aggressive form of the disease that experts say could be effectively used on other less aggressive forms. The doctor is in next.
Welcome back. Well, a new study suggests a breast cancer drug used in England could be useful in helping a greater number of people with the disease. The drug is currently used to help those with one of the most aggressive forms of cancer. It's called triple-negative breast cancer. But experts believe combining the drug with chemotherapy may be effective when used more widely. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joins us now for more on this. Dr. Patel, always great to have you with us. So first, take us through this research. How can this drug help with breast cancer treatment for a wider pool of women?
Savannah, this is a very exciting trial, the Keynote trial. It's been going on for many years, first looking at triple-negative breast cancer, where they take standard chemotherapy and add in a checkpoint inhibitor, a monoclonal antibody. Sounds familiar. We all talked about that during COVID. That's been commonly used in other types of cancers called pembrolizumab or Keytruda. I'm using a lot of words that are not going to make a lot of sense, but here is what the bottom line was. Not only was it effective, as we know, in triple-negative breast cancer, which is a rare form of cancer, but they also used it in a more common form of breast cancer, that is estrogen receptor positive breast cancer. And that accounts for about 80% of the cancers that we're detecting now. So this was a big breakthrough. So standard chemotherapy plus this checkpoint inhibitor, which basically is a monoclonal antibody that tells your body to let your natural immune cells attack cancer cells. Sounds very intuitive, but we needed the drug to let us do it. That, combined with chemotherapy, was a lot better, meaning that at the end of the treatment, about 24% of the patients that had this added checkpoint inhibitor were cancer-free, compared to about 16% that just had the standard chemo alone. So that's a pretty incredible, significant difference.
It really is. Dr. Patel, you also just recently told us, helped us understand this thing called the breast cancer risk assessment tool. And essentially you kind of like get a score and you understand, how concerned should I be? What preventative action should I take? Walk us through that again. How does that tool work and how is it helpful in maybe potentially early diagnosis?
This is like a very, so I had directed people to go to Komen.org. I'm going to give the full, it links to this tool, which is developed and kind of available on the National Institutes of Health website, BC breast cancer, but bcrisktool.cancer.gov. It can be a little bit clunky to say, but bcrisk.cancer.gov. I got it wrong again. bcrisktool.cancer.gov. God help me. What it does is it basically takes into account many of the risk factors, important risk factors, everything from obesity, use of alcohol, histories of breast cancer, it doesn't account for a certain set of genetic risk factors, kind of known as the BRCA genes, and it might not account for certain other types of cancers in your family, but it does take into account most of the risk factors that I talk to patients about. And it also takes into account things that I think about, having a baby after the age of 30, which occurred to me, and also having different onsets of menopause. So all of these things taken together, and again, I'll get it right this time, bcrisktool.cancer.gov. But if you can't remember that, Komen.org, which is a great nonprofit breast cancer initiative, is also going to link to this tool. And it showed that I personally had a higher than average risk, and that any woman with an average risk should start getting mammograms at the age of 40. Some people, especially African Americans or people with family histories of cancer, need it less than 40. So let's be clear. Every woman should start looking at their risk, no matter what age.
So, Doctor, I want to ask you a little bit, too, about screening, because this was something really important was brought to our attention by a member of our own team, which is that knowing some of those factors, that it runs in their family, that type of thing. Also, something else that a lot of women actually find out they have is dense breast tissue, which is my understanding is fairly common, but it can make it more difficult to actually be able to see what's going on, see what type of concerns and risks you have. So there's the mammogram. Then, though, sometimes you're sent for an additional scan. Even sometimes after that, you may be sent for an MRI. Much of the time, my understanding is some of those additional scans are not actually covered. Even when the doctor is calling for them, the charge for that goes straight to the patient. It's not seen as preventive care. How can we change something like that? And what do women need to be aware of in order to get what they need done to stay healthy, but know what the costs might be?
Yeah, Savannah, I want to commend the person who brought this into attention. It touches on a couple of decades of my work in healthcare policy. So a couple of things first. Mammograms, as defined by the United States Preventive Services Task Force for Preventive Care, are free. And that applies to Medicare, commercial, Medicaid. As you point out, there are a percentage of women, I happen to be one of them, that have denser breasts, and my doctor generally orders a breast ultrasound. Depending on what state you live in, Savannah, and depending on what kind of insurance you have, that test may not get covered for free. It might get charged. And so you have to look at this. Medicare doesn't have coverage for it. There is a law that's currently in Congress. Congress has been pretty busy, hasn't put attention to this, that would actually cover this for screening, breast MRIs, breast ultrasounds. Right now, though, check before you actually go in to see if you don't want to get sticker shock with the bill.
Dr. Kavita Patel, as always, it is wonderful to have you with us. Important information, and thank you for that URL. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Staying with health news, we're learning more about how the decision to enforce remote learning affected students' overall performance in the classroom. Well, the move was meant to keep people safe without a loss to the educational progress. Research shows that may not be the case. NBC News Now anchor Hallie Jackson takes a closer look.
Officials from red states.
The state will have an extended spring break.
To blue.
Something I could not in a million years have imagined having to do.
All making the same hard choice, shutting down schools to stop the spread of, at the time, an unknown and deadly virus.
3,000 deaths already nationwide.
The science behind the consequences, not exactly certain.
But I don't have a good explanation or solution to the problem of what happens when you close schools and it triggers a cascade of events.
New research finding what does happen. The shutdowns coming at a steep cost to students.
What we're seeing is that the pandemic is really acting as a compounding debt. It's keeping kids from being able to progress as they enter new levels within the education system at the typical rates we would expect.
Start with the learning loss. A study led by researchers at Harvard and Stanford found school districts that spent most of the 2020 to 2021 school year remote saw students fall more than half a grade behind in math on average, more than districts that spent most of the year in person. Lower income students ended up hurt the most, whether they went back to school sooner or stayed mostly at home that year. Politics also playing a role. Republican-led states reopening faster than those run by Democrats. Some of those red state governors, like Florida's Ron DeSantis, arguing his way worked.
We in Florida dragged the country out of lockdown.
Some Democrats and teachers unions standing by their approach.
We knew we had to be in school. We just wanted to be safe.
Question is, did closures slow COVID down? Data we now have shows people under 20 were half as likely to catch COVID, but not necessarily less likely to spread it. And experts we spoke with say the impact on stopping the spread depends on the school.
By the summer of 2020, we did have some data primarily from Europe
showing that kids could be safely in school. But again, circumstances. Some schools were able to do that. Other schools just simply could not do it.
But the academic damage is done. And even now, national test scores from spring 2023 show students 3rd through 8th grade overall have not rebounded from what they lost in math. Experts say districts need to boost funding for tutoring or summer school to get those numbers back up.
The problem that we're seeing is that the dosage of the treatment does not match the scale of the crisis. Without those interventions, I think we will have no hope of getting kids out of this hole.
While the next major health crisis will probably have a whole new set of challenges, some argue there are valuable lessons learned.
We can't take the lessons specifically from COVID and say, what we learned there is exactly going to apply. But what we can do is build resiliency in our school system so that they are able to withstand this potential needing to stay open.
Our thanks to Hallie Jackson for that report. Dr. O'Leary, who you just heard at the end of Hallie's report there, says if there's one thing schools need to fund now, it's ventilation, keeping that up to date to prepare schools for the next crisis. Coming up, we are heading to space. Yes, the final frontier. After the break, we're going to introduce you to NASA's latest class of astronauts getting ready to launch. But do you think you have the right stuff? Hey, the applications are open.
Yeah, that's right. You can actually apply to be an astronaut. And we're going to have the former ISS commander join us next on that rigorous screening process that's looking to send our best and brightest to infinity and beyond. That is next on Morning News Now. We are back now with what could be a dream job for some, because if you got the right stuff, NASA wants to see your resume.
The space agency is now recruiting its next class of astronauts. It's expecting to be flooded with applicants who are hoping for their ticket to the stars. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello is here with us now. And Tom, to say this is a selective process, I guess would be an understatement.
Big time. Selective doesn't even begin to describe this process. NASA wants the best and the brightest, of course, to travel maybe to the space station, to the moon, maybe even Mars one day. But if you're interested, you better act fast. The astronaut application deadline only 2 weeks away. If you can't get enough of the Apollo moon landings,
the Eagle has landed,
or SpaceX launches today,
and liftoff at 2-6. Go Dragon, go Falcon.
If you dream of stars and speed and all things space,
That was one heck of a ride. Thank you.
NASA has a job for you.
So, you want to be an astronaut? If you have what it takes, we want you up here.
Yep, NASA is looking for full-time professional astronauts. Applications due April 2nd.
To train and to fly for the benefit of all humankind.
More than 12,000 people are expected to apply for just 10 spots. The job requirements: you must be a U.S. citizen, have a master's degree in a STEM field, science, computer science, mathematics, or engineering, at least 3 years of professional experience or 1,000 in-command hours for pilots, and able to pass a rigorous fitness test.
Let's give them a big round of applause.
NASA's latest class of astronauts just graduated after 2 years of training, including Marcos Barrios, a fighter pilot who grew up in Puerto Rico.
We're all extremely excited. You can feel the emotion, you can sense the emotion.
At the Johnson Space Center in Houston, we were invited into a mock-up of the Orion space capsule that will one day carry some of those new astronauts to lunar orbit. The biggest difference between Orion and Apollo is, first of all, it's bigger. It's about a third bigger than Apollo. 4 astronauts will sit in here instead of 3. And Orion uses solar power rather than Apollo's battery power. New astronaut Nicole Ayers can't wait. What is that like, to be in this astronaut class that could walk on the moon?
I think exciting is an understatement. It's such a fantastic time in human spaceflight.
Beyond the professional resume, NASA is also looking for something else in new astronauts.
I'd say that teamwork is probably the #1 competency that we are looking for in folks that will be successful coming into this role. So that includes being a leader as a part of that team, but also being a follower as a part of that team.
Starting pay $152,000, and you got to be willing to travel. Yeah, long distances. Travel. Listen, it's a very select group of people, astronauts, right? I mean, listen, since 1959, NASA has had only 360 astronauts, 299 men, 61 women, but these days the classes are really 50-50. There are about 51 active astronauts today, about 18 management astronauts. But the alumni group, that's pretty small, right? They're alumni class gatherings. It's not like you,
exactly.
Not like Northwestern or CU.
Everyone gets in, right? No, that is incredible. They got me at the STEM thing, though. I think my intro to geology course in college.
Yeah, that doesn't
not quite the masters. Yeah, it's pretty cool, though. Thank you, Tom. That was awesome.
Here with more on this is former NASA astronaut and International Space Station Commander Leroy Chow. Good to have you with us. So from your experience, what should these astronauts expect in this screening process once they've applied?
Well, as you point out, it's a pretty rigorous process. Of course, you put your application in, and then it's a long waiting period where you're, not really sure. Well, there's not much you can do except wait, and then you're hoping to get that phone call inviting you to come down to interview. As you pointed out, NASA's expecting, several thousand, maybe 10 or 12,000 people to apply. From that, they will likely interview about 100 people. So you get that phone call. That's the first big step, and then you show up here and go through a medical exam and go through an interview and kind of try to keep going.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. I remember talking with a current astronaut, Christina Cook, when she got that phone call, what she said the emotions were. Tell us about your time there. I mean, what were the biggest challenges for you? I don't know how much has changed, but in this application process, I know it's so intense. Tell us about what you went through.
Sure. So the application process is fairly straightforward. Of course, when I went through, there really was no internet, so it was a paper application and had to get everything sent over to NASA, transcripts and all that. But, but the fundamentals are basically the same. You put your application together. Like I said, it's a pretty straightforward process, and then you put everything together. And, the thing is, of course, there's so many qualified applicants. A lot of people out there have those qualifications. And then, as was mentioned in the segment, it really comes down to kind of what are you about? Are you someone that I would want to spend time with in a confined area? In other words, would I want you as part of my crew? That's the fundamental question these people are asking themselves when they're evaluating you on whether or not you're going to keep advancing and hopefully get selected.
Yeah, for the prospective astronauts who want to prove they have the right stuff, what is your best advice?
Sure. Best advice is, put your application in. You're going to be asked for references. Find at least one person who really knows you very well. That's a lot better than getting someone really famous who, maybe you worked for a little while or took a course from and they really can't say much about you. But, you got to have you kind of mix up your references there. Once you get that package together and in, you just got to wait and hope. You got to keep trying, too. Most astronauts do not make it in on their first try. Some astronauts have tried multiple times before finally getting selected.
So stick with it. I love that. All right. And then let's say you make it through. Can anything really prepare you for the first time that you leave Earth?
Well, not really. It's something I dreamed about since I was an 8-year-old kid watching Apollo 11 land on the moon. And so just getting selected, just getting interviewed, then getting selected, they were such thrills. And then preparing for my first flight, of course, you've watched all the videos, you've talked to people who've been there, you've imagined it, but nothing prepares you for the day you actually strap into the vehicle for real. The engine's light and you're on your way. And then the next thing you know, minutes later, you're in orbit. And it was a surprisingly emotional experience that first time, but you're greeted that beautiful view of the Earth and our an open space, and it's just wow. Wow.
Leroy Chow giving us the overview effect on this process here. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Great to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, game recognized game.
After the break, tennis superstar Coco Gauff isn't losing sight of where she came from, and now she's giving back to the community where she cut her teeth on the court, and she's doing it for the kids. That story next. Finally this hour, Coco Gauff will be making her Olympic debut in Paris after becoming the first U.S. tennis player to mathematically clinch a spot in the Olympic field.
But before she turns all her focus to training, the 20-year-old superstar is teaming up with the U.S. Tennis Association for a special initiative to give back to young athletes in the sport. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock sat down with her for an exclusive one-on-one.
These courts here in Delray Beach are a special place for Coco Gauff. That's where she developed her game. So special, in fact, the coordinates are right on the front of her shoe to remind her of Pompey Park and where it all started. In fact, her parents and her grandparents also played in this park. They were civil rights pioneers. So when the USTA decided to donate $3 million in grants to refurbish courts like these all over the country in honor of Coco Gauff, she figured what better place to start than right here.
Before she was thriving on tennis's biggest stages, Coco Gauff, the 2023 U.S. Open winner, was an aspiring tennis player, always on these courts with her dad.
Just every day, every morning, 8 a.m., just me and him and just drilling.
The family moving to Delray Beach when she was only 8 to test the waters and see where tennis might take the young athlete with so much potential.
I don't think anyone ever knew the extent of how good I was getting and how fast everything was happening.
We knew that she would be a good tennis player. She was working really hard. Did we know that they would embrace her in the world like they are? Yeah. No, we had no clue.
Now one of the sport's biggest names.
I am a product of the strong community and the village it took to get me to where I am now.
Coco is back in Delray, trading ground strokes with future stars and this giant kid.
Oh, you're not bad. Ah!
As she unveils a newly refurbished court, part of the USTA's $3 million U.S. Open Legacy Initiative honoring Gauff.
You picked this court first.
Yes.
Why here, and what kind of a difference can that make in the lives of all these kids?
First here is because I think it was the court that made the impact to me, and the community put so much into me, so I have to give back to the community.
And giving back is nothing new for Coco. She's been doing it her whole life, from reading to children to announcing Little League games. The ballpark next door is dedicated to her grandparents. Her grandfather integrated Delray's first Little League team, while Coco's grandmother integrated the city's high school. That might help explain why Coco's past is so important to her present.
This is more than a shoe. This is my story.
These are the coordinates from these courts.
Yes.
When did you decide to do that and why?
I wanted it to be a piece of me because I'm not only a tennis player, I have a family, I have a life outside of tennis.
But she has plenty of focus for tennis, too. Famously upsetting Venus Williams in 2019 at Wimbledon as a 15-year-old, 7 years after getting a signed ball from the legendary player. A few years later, Coco becoming the youngest American to win the U.S. Open since Serena Williams.
Who inspired you to become a tennis player?
Serena and Venus. Yeah, and then my dad, of course. I saw myself in Serena and Venus, and so it made me believe that I could, do something.
Now she has big dreams of more Grand Slam titles and Olympic glory, too. After a positive COVID test robbed her of a chance to compete in Tokyo, Coco is the first American to qualify for the 2024 Olympics in Paris, her favorite city.
I particularly want to do it this year and win a medal. That's one of my dreams that I wanted to do as a tennis player.
At this point, who would bet against her? A humble hero who can also dole out tough love. Demanding 5 push-ups after I ended our rally. The bar is high for someone who cares so deeply.
Sounds like you would love to have one of these kids in 10 years challenge you at the U.S. Open.
I would love that. Hopefully I wouldn't lose, but I would love it. And I guess that if I did that happen, which it probably will, it would be my cue to maybe leave the game.
And there is no doubt that the next Coco Gauff very well could have practiced on these courts. Now, I had a really interesting and reflective conversation with Coco's parents. Her dad said there was a missing gap in tennis between basically Arthur Ashe and the Williams sisters, and the Williams sisters showed the world what is possible, and that the best gift that Coco could give parents and other families is to show them what is possible. As far as the USTA is concerned, they have improved more than 43,000 courts just like this all over the country. Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
All right, great push-up form, Sam. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now, though.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.